Oh, we're out of storage. Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the great people over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. For more information, visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. It is a Wednesday edition of the Pewter Report podcast. And man, oh man, do we have a show in store for you. The most unique, the most uncommon practice that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had during their 2025 training camp at the beginning of the season, because this one was not in Tampa, Florida, but it was not against another team, not just yet. The Bucs were in Pittsburgh practicing solo before they have a joint practice with the Steelers, and Pewter Report was on hand for all of it. So let's get into it. I'm your host, Matt Matera, joined with me my fellow co-host and colleague at pewterreport.com, Adam Slavon. We are doing the show live from our hotel, so appreciate everybody that has joined in and watching the show. Adam, how are you feeling after this Bucs practice over in Pittsburgh?
I'm feeling good. It was an entertaining practice, Matt, and kind of like the theme of training camp. I feel like it's been a lot of back and forth, especially after the pads have come on, where you're not really seeing one side of the ball dominate, but what you are seeing is good plays being made on offense and defense. So it was entertaining. Shout out the Tartans for hosting the Bucs today, and let's get into it.
Yeah, for sure. So the Bucs were practicing at Carnegie Mellon University. It's a little bit of a smaller school, but right in downtown Pittsburgh, which is interesting as well, because Pittsburgh, you have Duquesne University, you have the University of Pittsburgh, which Kalijah Cansey and Sarace Dennis played at. So there's a lot of schools right in between. They are the Tartans, and the Bucs practiced at Gessling Stadium. That was the name of the stadium where the Bucs were at. So they had one field that was going on. And it was cool to see like the buses of everybody kind of rolling up. It was very, even Todd Bowles said after practice, it was very isolated, old school and stuff like that too. It's a little bit of like me against the world and stuff like that, which I think is good because you want to break up the monotony of training camp, and you want to break up like the comfort levels too. You know, you want to see them in different locations, how they look, what the atmosphere is like around them. And they certainly got that today over at Carnegie Mellon University.
Yeah, that's a great point, because they're so used to 8:30 in the morning, going out there at the Advent Health Training Center, and mixed it up a little bit. Started early today at 11 at a different venue, and the rain held off, which is a good sign because it looked like it was going to start pouring. Instead, there was only some drizzle. So the Bucs got in some good work.
They certainly did. Yeah, practice was a little bit later, around 11:30, 11:40. Obviously, we're used to the Bucs participating at around 8:30 in the morning. It did rain, as Adam mentioned, at the beginning, but luckily as practice went on, it stopped raining, the skies opened, then it got pretty hot. We're not going to say it was like Tampa, Florida hot, but it was certainly, we were sweating by the end. So some good back and forth. We'll go into every single bit of notes that we have. We'll start with who was in and who was out. So returning to practice was Vita Vea. He did not participate on Monday. And Owen Wright, the running back who had a great game in the preseason opener at home against the Tennessee Titans, he was back in the mix. And that was important to note because they had just signed Jace McClellan, the former Falcons running back who played at the University of Alabama. So every running back was available with the exception of Rachaad White. He was one of the players that was out. He's still going to be day to day, and it's going to be a little bit of a matter of time before Rachaad White gets in there and starts participating. Now, the bigger story is kind of who wasn't participating. Benjamin Morrison was out once again. Bryce Hall was out once again, but he was at least running like on his own. He looked a little bit more ready to go compared to some of the other guys. So I think we'll see Bryce Hall a little bit faster than some of these other corners that were out. No Cameron Johnson, the wide receiver. Trey Palmer was out once again, but he was running on his own.
Josh Hayes as well.
Josh Hayes out too. The big one, though, and I asked this to Todd Bowles after practice, and I promise I wasn't trying to like fearmonger or anything like that. I was just genuinely curious because Antoine Winfield Jr. was out for the second day in a row. So, what's up? I get like, okay, Vita Vea is out on Monday, but he's back. It's just like kind of a veteran day. Same with Levante David and Mike Evans. When they're out for a little bit, it's like, okay, well, it's probably just a vet day. Antoine Winfield Jr., I don't know if he's earned the right to like have time off. He's only been in the league for a couple of years now. But I asked I asked Todd Bowles, about Antoine Winfield Jr. And he said he has a lower leg injury and he's sore. So I don't know if that means he's going to participate tomorrow against the Steelers, if he's going to be out for a little bit, or maybe it's just a 2-day thing and he returns when they, when they get ready for the preseason game against the Steelers or whatever the case may be. But nonetheless, Adam, the Bucs are, I don't mean to be laughing, but the Bucs are dealing with a good amount of injuries to the secondary. And as much as you can prepare, and as much as they did kind of build up the secondary, it's tough when everyone's having their own different issues.
Yeah. And one thing about Winfield is that it's different from all the other kind of injuries going on, because so many of the players have been dealing with hamstrings, dealing with like just kind of the repercussions from playing out in the Tampa Bay Heat every day. But for Winfield, it's a sore leg. And after last year where he was kind of limited by having an ankle injury, you're worried a little bit, but would also assume that he'd be just fine. Maybe for the second preseason game against the Steelers if he doesn't practice tomorrow. But kind of looking at the defensive backs and all the injuries, they signed a defensive back earlier this week in Javion Farr, and he got a lot of action because really there was no other corners out there. Pointing to Zion McCollum and Jamel Dean, though. Dean had a really nice practice. Farr made a play, and they kind of made do with what they had there.
They certainly did, and it speaks to everything that we've seen from this secondary early on. Attack, 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 be aggressive, go after the football. And I think it's great that Javion Farr was the one making a play because the guy's been here for 2 seconds. He was there during rookie minicamp and things like that. But for him to go and make a diving play, he's wearing number 11 if you see it in random videos throughout practice. For him to make a play early on in practice, too. I would say it was within the first hour of the 2 and change of practice. So that was good to see. He'll certainly get some opportunities in the preseason as well. The last injury we have to talk about, and then we'll break it down offense and defense specifically. This last one, I got to be careful with it. We saw Desmond Watson, the polarizing defensive tackle from the Florida Gators. He was running. And I know with everybody else, you go, who cares? Who cares if he's running? Desmond Watson, who's been standing around, walking, standing, walking. He was finally running today. He was running about 30 yards, kind of doing a 40-yard dash. Then he'd run in short bursts and stuff like that. We had video of it, but unfortunately, we were not allowed to post it onto our social media because he's still on the NFI list, and he was working with trainers. Now, it was just one field because that's what, Gessling
we were bound to see him,
Yeah, exactly. We were going to run into him. So, unfortunately, we were not able to post the video that we have of him running. But he was running today, so that is a step in the right direction. And I asked Todd Bowles after practice, is there any update with him? And he said, there's nothing to say until you see him practicing. So I don't know. This curious case is still going on. It's a bit of a mystery, Adam. I'm curious to get your thoughts on it because I understand he's polarizing. We know he has gargantuan size. But if he's not practicing, he might as well be Michael Pratt. And I know Michael Pratt just got cut. I'm very sorry to say that. But he's not participating. He's not getting in anytime soon.
No.
If there's like 1 or 2 injuries to the defensive line, the way that we've seen it with the cornerbacks and stuff like that.
You can't even put him in there.
Yeah, you can't put him in there. So you're going to have to sign someone. Now, hopefully we don't get to this point and the Bucs don't have any other injuries. But eventually you're going to get to the point where if you need to sign a defensive tackle, he's going to be the guy that you waive.
Yeah, and for like what it's worth, though, I thought Watson, like for running around today, he looked to be in good shape. He's maybe dropped a little bit of weight since the start of training camp. But to your point, if he doesn't play and joint practice tomorrow, the second preseason game, and you're going into maybe he doesn't even practice or play in the preseason at all, like he's taking up a roster spot. You want to give it to a guy that you can maybe develop along the lines of what they did with CJ Brewer or Ernest Brown, somebody that could actually see the field this season. So if Desmond Watson's not playing and the whole plan is to just store him on the practice squad, it gets kind of hard to balance and even consider him worthy of having that roster spot.
And the Bucs won't be vocal out loud with like what type of progress he's made, how close is he to returning. But you have to think, are they that worried about cutting him loose and then another team signing him? Like, is he that valuable to the team at this point? Or do they feel, okay, we'll hold on to him for as long as that we possibly can. And then all of a sudden we will, put him on our practice squad and say, hey, like we held on to you this entire time. Stay with us. You kind of owe us, like, this defense. And, a player's not going to do that. It is a business nonetheless. But, he was moving around today. So I think it's a little bit of worthy news. If there's anything new, as soon as he puts on the helmet and shoulder pads and starts playing, we certainly will let everybody know because they will have to take him off the NFI list as well. But
and
go ahead.
I was going to say, like, part of the reason for signing him, I know, is kind of thrown around that he was going to be the tush-push Terminator, if you will. Unless the Eagles sign him, I mean, the Bucs, they could stop the tush-push themselves pretty good with Vita Vea.
Vita Vea certainly can do that. We're going to talk about a big moment with Vita Vea a little bit later on the podcast today. And again, thank you to everybody that is filing in and watching today's show. We'll answer a couple of questions. Certainly Super Chats get to cut the line and things like that. But any questions and comments you may have about today's practice, we're going to cover as much as we possibly can. But in case we forget about something or someone and you want to know about someone specifically, we are very happy to answer that and answer some other questions as well. But let's talk about the quarterbacks, shall we? Because it was a very, very interesting day. We'll talk about Baker Mayfield. Real quick, I do want to mention, though, that we saw a ton of Teddy Bridgewater today.
Yep.
The most of Teddy Bridgewater that we have seen, it's only been like a week now, but the most that we've seen of him since he's come to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'll get to Teddy Bridgewater in a moment. Baker Mayfield, I hate to sound like a broken record, but Baker Mayfield, he's really dialing in. And I'm very excited. We're obviously all excited to see the quarterbacks anyway, but I'm very excited to see what we're going to get out of Baker Mayfield tomorrow in the preseason game on Saturday if he plays, which nod, wink, wink, looks like a good chance he's going to do that. And certainly during the season. Because early on in practice, in training camp, early on, Baker was a little bit like the OK Corral, a little bit like the guy that can be a bit turnover heavy for sure. But something has happened in the past couple of weeks. Maybe it's building chemistry with Emeka Egbuka.
Maybe it's the mustache.
Maybe it's the mustache. Excellent observation there, Adam. But he's still being the, rocket arm, fire throws and stuff like that, but without the menacing mistakes, without the crazy overthrows. The long ball can still improve to a degree, but we're not seeing the silly hospital balls. We're not seeing balls that should probably be intercepted and get dropped or whatever the case may be. So I really like what I'm seeing with Baker Mayfield. He's calm, cool, and collected. Second play of practice today, bam, he hits Emeka Egbuka over the middle. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, just continuing to talk about Baker Mayfield and Emeka Egbuka. Because when Mike Evans isn't practicing and Mike participate, like he goes through warm-ups and then that's pretty much all he does during practice, which is fine. Again, just get him ready for the season. Bubble wrap him. He'll practice tomorrow. When Mike's not there, Egbuka's the number one guy. And he is you want to say he's the slot guy. He's the everything guy. But he's always open over the middle, like 15 yards down the field. I'm convinced at this point, Emeka Egbuka is going to have the same impact that Puka Nacua had for the Rams when he was a rookie. I think Emeka Egbuka has become that good that this is the impact he will have this season.
Matt, that's a great observation. And I just want to say, like you mentioned, Baker is kind of dialing it in terms of the offense. He's dialing it in, targeting Emeka Egbuka primarily.
Yes.
And I could see a situation where Emeka begins the season as a number 2, but then you kind of see a 2A, 2B situation with him and Chris Godwin. As Chris Godwin kind of gets back into the fold, Emeka has looked that good that quickly, and he just gets open. He makes Baker and the rest of the quarterback's lives so much easier. He gets open across the middle. He gets open on the sideline, and that just does so much for the offense. But in terms of the offense kind of dialing And then you've kind of seen Josh Grizzard's offensive philosophy a little bit more. They've relied on a lot of quick game and screen passes, especially today. You didn't see too many instances of like the quarterback holding the ball, kind of waiting for that deep shot. So you kind of saw Grizzard's vision, and that's going to feature a lot of Ibuka, a lot of Chris Godwin when he gets back and he's healthy. And like in totality, that's exciting because you want to get the ball in the playmakers' hands. Last season, Liam Cohen did such a good job, like getting guys open in space, and just seeing that kind of come together now. And Mayfield's locked in and ready to do it.
He is so locked in. And yeah, he had a couple of other good completions as well. It was a Oklahoma reunion with Sterling Shepard, finding a little, this was during red zone. It was a little space in the defense. He just needed 2 seconds to get open, Sterling Shepard. And when he had that window of opportunity, he struck with Baker Mayfield throwing to him. Also had a nice completion to Payne Durham as well as they kind of rotated. Kadon is just returning. This is his second practice in a row, but they're not just giving him full throttle just yet. So Baker Mayfield was certainly on his game. But Teddy Bridgewater, man, was a dude that really, really stood out today. Baker was good, no turnovers, great connection with Emeka Egbuka, like I just mentioned, and a couple of other guys. But this was the most that we got to watch of Teddy Bridgewater this early morning into the afternoon at practice today in Pittsburgh. And I got to say, watching Teddy Bridgewater today, you can see why he's been in the NFL for several years at this point.
Yes.
The timing, and he's been putting in a lot of work behind the scenes too. Like since he's come to Tampa, the first couple of days, not getting any reps, but he worked with a lot of the wide receivers, like the guys fighting to make this team, Garrett Green, Ryan Miller, things like that, Jacob Harris. He's been working with these guys behind the scenes after practice, running different routes, throwing into the end zone, throwing out routes, all these different things. And the timing today was exceptional. He was really, really doing a great job of throwing to the outside towards the sideline and in the end zone as well, towards that front pylon. He had a great throw. It was to the left side. It would have been all right, but Teddy Bridgewater's left side, looking for Jacob Harris, just running, about a 15-yard out route to the sidelines, a square out, if you want to call it that too. Tyreek Thunderberg had slipped on the play because this is when the field was a little bit slick. So it was a 15-yard pass, but it ended up going for about like 65 yards based on when Thunderberg slipped. Teddy Bridgewater then later on in red zone had a throw to Ryan Miller. Again, from our vantage point, because we were behind the right side of the field, which was so cool too, because like Jason Light was standing over there, Mike Greenberg, a lot of like the Bucs personnel, while the players were on the other side. So we had this fantastic angle of Teddy Bridgewater throwing the ball before Ryan Miller even cut to the front pylon on the left side of the end zone. Made a terrific catch right then and there, put it only where Ryan Miller could get it. A lot of less snaps from Kyle Trask today, but that was by design.
Yes.
They ran a lot of screens and stuff with Kyle Trask. They really put an effort into getting Teddy Bridgewater way more snaps today. No Connor Bazelak. He was healthy. He just didn't really get any reps. I still think Kyle Trask is QB2, but if Teddy Bridgewater continues to practice the way that he did today, the Bucs have great strength with their 3 quarterbacks, depending on what they want to do about it on the roster.
And what I'll say about Teddy is that he looks ready, he's heady, and he's steady.
Oh.
And out there today, like that pass to Jacob Harris, that was one of the best throws that I've seen all of training camp. Like, not only did he find Jacob Harris on the sideline there, and Harris kind of made a little toe tap and started to head upfield, there was beautiful arc on that throw.
Yes.
And I didn't get to see the Ryan Miller throw, but it sounds like it was a pretty good one too. But he's just picking up the offense really quickly. And I asked Bowles, I'm like, hey, is he going to play the second preseason game on Saturday? And he's like, we'll know more after tomorrow. But all indications show the fact that he's already kind of surpassed Bazelak on the depth chart. He's kind of competing with Kyle Trask. They're splitting reps there with the second team. I would be surprised if he wasn't playing on Saturday, at least for a quarter, maybe a drive. Just get him out there and kind of see what he has.
It depends on how they want to use the starters. And again, we'll find out from Todd Bowles tomorrow. But if they want to use the starters until halftime, which I don't think they should do, then I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater plays, because you got to get Kyle Trask in there. And then what do you do with Connor Bazelak?
Right.
But if he doesn't play in week 2, I think he's going to play 3 quarters.
The bulk of the third
in week
game.
3 against the Buffalo Bills. Kyle Trask is still going to be the number 2. Don't worry about
Yeah.
Kyle Trask. He was more than fine, but it's fine with one quarterback having a pretty good day. It's also important to point out, too, Teddy Bridgewater's not going to make this team out of training camp. At least I don't think. Not saying that they don't like him, but it's the same situation with Sterling Shepard. Because at this point, they are both very long-time and long-term veterans, where if they had them on the active roster after roster cuts, their contracts become guaranteed. And you don't want to do that with players that are, not a focal point of your offense specifically.
I want to say if they had Sterling on the 53-man roster to begin the year, he'd be getting like $2.5 million.
You're right.
That was the contract that he signed. So they don't want to pay him all that, but they still want to pay him. And even if they're on the practice squad to begin the season, all it would take is one injury. They elevate him and they kind of get that bonus for the game.
Right. Exactly. So speaking of Sterling Shepard, I thought also Teddy Bridgewater had some good completions to Emeka Buga, shocker, but Jalen McMillan as well, which this is also a good reminder. Todd Bowles said after practice that McMillan and Ibuka looked good in the first preseason game. They're going to play even more in the second preseason game. So there's a little teaser for you right there in that moment. But Sterling Shepard, as I mentioned before, Mike Evans didn't really participate. He just kind of did the warm-ups and everything like that. Sterling Shepard, in my opinion, maybe there's a case for Ibuka, no doubt about it. But Shepard, I thought, did a heck of a job today. He made an exceptional sideline diving catch, had to go low, had to dive, kept his feet in bounds, made the reception. He was getting physical with his blocking and stuff like that, which I think is a really good strong point of his game, which he likes to do as much as he can. There was a lot of talking. There was a lot of back and forth. The chippiness was fantastic between the offense and defense. And I know it's like that a lot, but because there wasn't really fans there and stuff like that, and it was only one field, all you heard was the back and forth, some of the language that was being said to everybody. And I love it because it's good trash talk, but it's never over the line either.
It's all in good nature.
Yeah, it's all in good nature. The Bucs have never been in a spot where guys are truly fighting with each other a ton. I know Graham Bard might get in the mix with the D lineman, but it's never too out of control or anything like that. Which is really good to see. We want to talk about the running backs. This is a good opportunity to chat with Mark Fisher. Thanks for the $4.99 super chat, who says, how was Sean Tucker in practice? Outside of one run on Saturday, I thought he was only okay and outplayed by Wright. Obviously, feel free to disagree, ... Go Bucs. I thought Sean Tucker was fine today. I don't think
practice much.
Yeah, he didn't participate too much. You got to remember, at the end of the game with Owen Wright, Sean Tucker really wasn't getting any reps or anything like that. Now, Sean Tucker still had the largest run of the game with the 23-yarder. I think that's important to note. And he looks so far ahead of what anyone else is doing at third string, fourth string, and stuff like that. I wouldn't say he was outplayed by Owen Wright. I thought Owen Wright played really well, but Sean Tucker had his speed on display, was a little bit of a receiver as well. Today was a pretty average practice day for Sean Tucker, but I don't think he's in any type of jeopardy of losing his spot.
I agree. And today was more of an opportunity to kind of let the other running backs catch up. I thought, Josh Williams, he got the second team reps. You saw Jace McClellan, who the team just signed. He was out there getting some snaps. And then Wright being back and healthy, you kind of saw more of the snaps divvied between all those running backs, which kind of left Tucker, kind of watching. He got snaps here and there, didn't look as explosive as he has during camp, but this is still one of the more explosive running backs that nobody talks about. Last season, he averaged more than 6 yards a carry. He looked pretty dynamic in the first preseason game, and I'd expect to see him a lot more come Saturday.
By the way, we had another super chat from Mark Fisher. Thank you very much. Says, if you're in Pitt, how about a Ledyard appearance? We love John Ledyard. We miss him as well. We'll see if he's at practice tomorrow.
Yeah.
Never say never, but with these practices and these podcasts kind of summing up the practices and stuff like that, if they're not at practice, it's a little bit difficult to kind of have someone on for a recap like that. But we'll certainly try to get John on at some point during the season. And if he's at practice tomorrow, we'll definitely try to get that set up as well. Definitely miss John. He's doing some incredible stuff, and no doubt about it. Let's talk about Bucky Irving, because Bucky had a very interesting day for a couple of different reasons. So right out of the gate, Bucky Irving rips off like a 20, 25-yard run. It's like, oh, there's Bucky Irving. That's the guy we know. That's the dude that's going to, hopefully make the Pro Bowl this year, get over 1,000 yards again, maybe even get into that all-pro category, even though that's going to be a little bit difficult.
Maybe carry your fantasy football team too.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe he's already a keeper on your team or something like that. So that was good from Bucky. We saw him a little bit more in the receiving game today, especially with Rachaad White out for the second practice in a row. But the thing that stood out to me the most, and you can read it on our Bucs Camp Insider. We put it in the comments before, but feel free to read it on pewterreport.com after this podcast as well. The thing that stood out to me from Bucky Irving today was his pass blocking.
And that is what? Pass blocking.
That is something that we've talked about on the show before. It's one thing it's not holding Bucky back in terms of like how often the Bucs are going to use him, but in terms of having him as the third down back in crucial situations, couldn't always pass block the way you wanted him to last season. But he was great at identifying the blitz that was coming about today, whether it was Nick Jackson, Servassier Dennis, and Servassier had a good day. We'll talk about him. Of course, coming back to Pittsburgh, he was going to have a good day. But seeing Bucky engage with the defender, get those hands up, stay with them as well, and buy a couple of extra seconds for Baker Mayfield, that was something that I hadn't seen before from Bucky Irving, at least during training camp. And that's such an important aspect of the Bucs, their offense, and really the growth and development of Bucky Irving. Everybody wants to talk about Bucky and his rushing ability, but his pass blocking ability is going to keep him on the field for even more, depending on how the Bucs want to use him.
And I think that last sentence is very important because like Sean Tucker last year, a big reason why like he wasn't utilized as much was his pass blocking. And that seems to be a big factor in how often they see the field. But that rep that he had against Jacob Parrish. Now these are two guys with pretty identical frames, 5'9", 190. But Irving, he picked it up and he like protected Baker Mayfield's life and he was able to get off a throw. So that's going to be huge and like a really big factor in such in a passing game that relies so much on like quick routes.
It absolutely is. Another thing that's a really important factor is making sure that you have the right insurance for you and your family. And there's nobody better in the business to work with than the good people over at Briar Greaves Insurance. If you're a longtime podcast listener, you probably remember the late, great Mark Cook talking about Briar Greaves Insurance. Pewter Report's Scott Reynolds has been a Briar Greaves customer for years, and there simply is not a better insurance company in the Tampa Bay area. So visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com to see for yourself. Briar Greaves Insurance is family owned, and their main goal is helping people. They want to help people find the right insurance policy for you and your family. Whether it's home or auto, boating insurance, or business insurance, turn to Briar Greaves and find out why their personal touch and customer service sets them apart. The days of waiting on hold to speak with an insurance representative that you don't even know are over. With Briar Greaves Insurance, you'll have a relationship with your agent who can answer your questions and advise you on the best policies. As two recent hurricanes have shown all of us that live in the Tampa Bay area, there is a cost to living in paradise. Briar Greaves can help make sure you have the right hurricane and flood insurance to make sure you and your family are protected at home. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com today, that's Briar, B-R-I-E-R, Greaves, G-R-I-E-V-E-S, or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166, and tell them that Pewter Report sent you. You heard us talk about Jason Light earlier. Jason Light uses BriarGreavesInsurance.com. He said it on this podcast. On this very Pewter Report podcast, a couple of weeks ago, actually, Jason Light said that he uses Briar Greaves Insurance. So if you love the Bucs, if you love Jason Light, if you love Pewter Report, then give Briar Greaves Insurance a call today and see how they can help you. Also, don't believe us? Why don't you hear from Kathy Scavelli, who says, I called Briar Greaves upon your recommendation. They saved us a substantial amount of money on our commercial auto policy. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy Scavelli. We love hearing that, and congrats on saving the money. That is awesome to hear. We're very happy about that. So shout out to Briar Greaves. Let's talk about the defense.
Before we do,
sure.
There's one more point I want to make about the offense.
Let's do it.
And that's Payne Durham today.
Oh, yeah.
Against Vita Vea. All right. So, Vita Vea throughout camp, he's been going at it with Graham Barton, kind of making Barton look silly at times. It's like a real good on good battle. But Payne Durham today, he laid Vita Vea on the ground, stood over him, Matt, was flexing, went, kind of like Tyronn Lue AI, that situation. So that was a really fun rep to watch.
I was flabbergasted at first. Not even that it was Payne Durham, but it was Vita Vea on the ground. Now, we've seen Vita Vea on the ground, but there's usually an offensive lineman right next to him, whether it's Graham Barton or someone that Vita Vea just kind of went and barrel rolled, steamrolled, annihilated. And he kind of like trips over the offensive lineman as he's getting that bull rush in, or whatever rush he wants to do. That was not the case. And credit to Payne Durham, because he said a couple of practices ago, he's really enjoying being a human battering ram.
Yeah.
And that is a prime example.
So that's all my offensive notes there.
Fair enough. Let's go to the defensive side. A common theme, this secondary. Tight coverage. It doesn't matter if you're Jamel Dean, who had a fantastic day. Doesn't matter if you're Javian Farr, who's been on the team for one day. The mantra is getting sent home and taken personally by this Buccaneers secondary.
Yeah, and if you've watched Breaking Bad, Tuco Salamanca, he's like tight, and that's what kind of the defense is. And there's a quote I want to bring up by Izien McCollum. I spoke to him after practice today, and it says, it seems like we share kind of one mind, I guess, in a way. At least that's what we're trying to get to. It's where we're just moving as one unit, and we're all kind of on the same page. A lot of that has to do with speaking up when we need to. We're getting louder out there and starting to communicate in different ways. When we're all on the same page, we fly around and we play fast. And I think that perfectly sums up kind of what we saw out there today. You saw a lot of communication. There was a rep where McMillan was moving in motion, going from the right to left sideline. And McCollum, he's trailing him. He's like, I got him. Like, you're hearing that audibly. And it's so much louder than it was last season. And the secondary during the first preseason game against the Titans, although it was Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle, they picked him off 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, you saw the playmaking, you saw the tighter coverage. Payne Durham in his camp diary that's out on pewterreport.com, he mentioned that today. And just being able to see that consistently, Matt, I think has been huge. And it shows just how far Todd Bowles' defense has really come this offseason.
There were several times in that preseason game, and sometimes you get it in these practices too, where when the ball goes in the air, it's got a good chance of being intercepted. Now, the Bucs did not have an interception today, but I don't think that takes away from the amount of great coverage this team has had so far. Jamel Dean, again, 2 pass breakups on the day. This is a guy that has been not struggling during camp, but when he makes a play, it kind of stands out a little bit more. Maybe it's because we're not expecting as much from him anymore, despite being one of the starters on this team. And he's really going to be starting, too, if Benjamin Morrison continues to be out.
Yeah, and just kind of pointing out some of the other cornerbacks today. Javian Farr, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about him. We talked about him at the top of the show. Like, just such a great story. So he signed to the team earlier this week. Todd Bowles said, for not really knowing the defense, he played really well. And Farr's a great story. He grew up where I did in Southeast Wisconsin, just about 5 minutes away. So I was instantly gravitated towards him. But he shares an agent with Baker Mayfield.
Heard of him.
Yeah, you might know who he is. And that really made the process of coming to Tampa Bay seamless. He earlier in the week, he spent 3 days in 3 different states, being in Wisconsin, taking a flight out of O'Hare in Chicago, and coming down to Tampa Bay, trying out. And then you saw a lot of him today because of all the injuries, as we mentioned, to some of the corners. So he played well and really thought the secondary as a whole. You mentioned Dean, and we talked to McCollum. It's just such a tight-knit group. And what you really like about it, Matt, is that there's no ego. That's something that McCollum said to me. Like, all these guys are out there encouraging each other. They're making great plays, although there is a little bit of trash talk because Christian Izien had a pass breakup today, and you hear a player on the sideline saying, you got baby-ass arms, man. So it's all in good fun, though. It's
so great that, we get to watch practice and stuff like that, and everyone's giving it all. They're putting their bodies on the line and everything like that. And so we're so grateful to be able to watch it and report on it and stuff like that. But then there's a side like comedy show every now and then. When I heard baby ass arms, I started laughing out loud. Like, it was that funny. And again, like, all in good fun, because after someone was like, you were born that way anyway, something like that. So I love the trash talk there. Izien had another great rep against McMillan during the red zone session. It was 7-on-7, or 2-point conversion, actually, at the end. Baker tried to throw it low across the middle. I thought McMillan was going to come up with it, but Izien almost, it's kind of tough to explain. He almost like surfed on top of McMillan to jump over him and then knock the ball away. I don't think it would have been pass interference. There was certainly a lot of physicality on the play, but in my opinion, it wasn't pass interference. And, sometimes players, Christian Izien can't be complacent. He's an undrafted free agent that's going to have to earn a spot every single year. But sometimes the hype around you starts to build and grow even more, whether it's fanfare, whether it's analysts around the league. Sometimes it's your own coach. Yeah. And, Todd Bowles was the guy the other week, whatever it was, saying that he's already earned a spot on this team. And that's great. He's worked very hard to get that opportunity. At the same time, I think other people in this world, if they heard, they already earned a spot on the team, might go to their head a little bit. All it's done with Christian Izien is make him go harder, make him try to make the big play over and over and over again. And you love seeing it from this group. I don't necessarily even know where Christian Izien's going to play on this team. Is he going to be safety? Is he going to be in the nickel? What's he going to be? I don't know just yet, but I feel so much better about him being out there compared to before training camp began.
And you make such a great point about Izien. It kind of made me think about the fact that there's no member of the Bucs secondary that was a first-round pick. Yeah. Winfield and Morrison were second-round picks, but it kind of goes back to there being no ego, but there also being more grit. You've kind of seen an invasion of undrafted guys like Izien, Merriweather, J.J. Roberts, Shiloh Sanders. You can go on and on. Roman Perotti, Tyreek Funderburk. These are all undrafted guys, starting to make their names known in the secondary, and you're seeing that grit translate onto the field, but also the communication, and they truly are brothers and they're truly teammates that are on the same page. And I think that's going to lead to results, even if it's a little bit unexpected.
We got a comment from Pewter Report. Scott Reynolds, SR, says Matt and Sly with Buck Scoop live in Pittsburgh. Keep up the great work, guys. SR, thank you very much, Scott. We appreciate that. Scott also had the Payne Durham camp diary came out today on pewterreport.com. Payne Durham's one of the funnest people to interview, to talk to. He's great on camera. He's great off camera. So definitely check out the training camp diary with Payne Durham. Like we mentioned before, too, the Bucs Camp Insider that we collabed on today is out and about. So you're listening to us right now, but anything that you want to see further, you can read about it on pewterreport.com as well. You mentioned Shiloh Sanders just a moment ago. Shiloh was in the mix once again. He had a nice tackle for loss, today at practice. I'm very intrigued to see him go tomorrow. We don't even really know what's up with the Steelers and their quarterback situation, because Will Howard got hurt. Aaron Rodgers had his leg wrapped the other day, so we'll see if he practices. Skylar Thompson is still there. But Shiloh is carving out a specific niche. Now, I don't know if this is going to get him on the team, per se, on the 53-man roster. But when Shiloh is up at the line of scrimmage, when he's blitzing, he's got a knack for getting in there in 2.5 seconds. And it's easy to say, oh, well, anyone can blitz and just get there. Not necessarily. There are times where you're blitzing off the edge and the line doesn't know, and you're on the right side, but they're blocking left, or something like that. But Shiloh was going head-to-head with some of these tight ends, wide receivers towards the line of scrimmage, and he's still in there going and making plays. I want to see a lot more of that from Shiloh Sanders, because I think he's got a better shot at making the team that way than his traditional staying back in coverage. We've seen J.J. Roberts be the guy that can make big plays the further back that he is and where the ball is. We saw that, in the preseason game. But I don't think it's a surprise to me that Shiloh's biggest play was hitting the quarterback. And I think for him, he's got to continue doing that. But it was good for him having a tackle for a loss today that wasn't just hitting a sitting duck at quarterback.
I fully agree. I think that his physicality is probably his best attribute. And while you might think, being the son of Dion, they would be the hip fluidity or just the coverage skills, no, he's a big hitter. And you saw that in the first preseason game. When we talked to him in the locker room after, he mentioned that he wants to take all his abilities and unlock them and unleash them to the max. And I thought that was a great quote. So hopefully he could show a little bit more of an all-around game in the second preseason game. But it kind of connects to our Pewter Report roundtable a little bit. You mentioned the quarterbacks. And I really want to see tomorrow, Matt, and during the preseason, how they fare against Skylar Thompson and Mason Rudolph. Because although those guys might not know him or much of them, Rudolph was 9 of 10 in the first preseason game. And then Skylar Thompson, he was 20 of 28, and he had 3 touchdowns. So these aren't just Joe Schmoes off the street. These are guys that can sling it a little bit. So will the Bucs defense be able to show as much and have as many playmaking moments as they did against the Titans? Because, there's going to be some more increased competition there.
There absolutely is. I would love to see these Bucs corners against DK Metcalf and some of those skill players that the Pittsburgh Steelers have. It's going to be a fun one tomorrow. The Bucs will be at the Steelers Stadium. I have a tough time pronouncing it, to be honest with you, but there will be a joint practice tomorrow. We will cover it on the Pewter Report podcast. The time is TBD. The date is tomorrow. It's TBD at the moment because practices is at 2 p.m, which means we're getting Todd Bowles around 4:00. We typically do the Pewter Report podcast at 4:00. Now, typically we just say, we'll just move it to 6:00 or something like that. But we are also flying home back to Tampa tomorrow, so we also have a flight to catch. So stay tuned to our social media. We'll let you know when we are going live on the Pewter Report podcast. We might be in the Steelers media room at the stadium. We might be in the bleachers. We might have SR on and we phone in or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of moving parts coming up tomorrow, but stay tuned to our social media. We're going to have everything broken down in terms of the matchups, who's going against who's looked good, who's looked bad, what positions have excelled. So to get back to that roundtable, I am so pumped to watch Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, and Jalen McMillan go up against some of the Steelers' high-profile corners.
Yes.
Jalen Ramsey, who is going to be practicing, according to Mike Tomlin, Darius Big Play Slay, and Joey Porter Jr., who's carved out an important role for this team. We were robbed, I tell you. A couple of seasons ago when Jalen Ramsey was on the Miami Dolphins, we were robbed of Mike Evans against Jalen Ramsey throughout training camp in that joint practice. Ramsey did not participate in that one. But he's on a new team, first year with this team. I feel like he's going to have to give it a go as he gets acclimated into the Steelers defense. That makes it such an incredible matchup. No disrespect to the Titans, but they have the number 1 pick for a reason. Egbuka against some veterans, Egbuka against a young and up-and-coming corner like Joey Porter Jr. has been in the league for a couple of years now. McMillan, I think this is a great opportunity for him. There's a lot of fun stuff to watch tomorrow.
Yeah, especially with the way that Baker, we mentioned earlier, that he's locked in, throwing to those guys with those high-profile corners, on him. I think Jalen Ramsey's still a very good corner. We'll see if he still has that elite ability this season. But regardless, get your popcorn ready.
Absolutely. One other thing from practice today as well that I thought was important. Elijah Roberts had a quote-unquote would-be sack today. He's really gaining the fundamentals. That's what Todd Bowles mentioned after practice. Really getting the fundamentals as well, stopping the run. But this one, to see that pass rushing move come out, he was pretty good at it playing at edge over at SMU, but a little bit different transitioning over to defensive tackle. So seeing him kind of figure out what's working, what's not working, it's all about that progression. Not everybody's going to step onto the field and be amazing the way that Emeka Egbuka has been, or the way that, Jacob Parrish has really shot out of the cannon. So good for Elijah Roberts making the most of his added and extra opportunities. Hopefully that's a sign of things to come for the defensive tackle out of SMU.
Yeah, and he had a solid showing during the first preseason game against the Titans. He didn't get a sack, but he had some decent pressure reps. But what I'm really excited to see about Elijah Roberts is that he's kind of a unicorn in this Todd Bowles defense, because he can line up inside as a 3-tech, then bounce out and kind of line up at edge too. So you see that versatility, the production that he had at SMU, where he led the whole nation, not just a conference in college, the whole nation in sacks and pressures. So seeing that translate just a little bit, I think that today was a good start, getting a sack. He's had more of a quiet camp, but he's also kind of stacking days and, getting more solid as the summer wears on.
Yeah, it's certainly been gradual for him, but you kind of expect that with the day 3 pick. And I think that's totally fine. We know it's going to be Kalijah Kancey and Vita Vea. Kalijah Kancey was on the ground for a second too, and I was like, oh my God. But he was completely fine. Again,
Luke Gedeke helped him up.
Yes, it's football. There's going to be little dings here and there. He's totally fine. But for a second, I was like, not again. But he was totally fine. He was talking trash and smack after and everything like that. Talking smash, trash, and smack together. There you go. But yeah, no worries there on Kalijah Kancey. Again, we're going to try to cover and video as much as we possibly can tomorrow for Bucs versus Steelers. They only give the media a certain amount of time, and we're under the Steelers rules. So whatever they say kind of goes.
They might put up the steel curtain.
Right, they may. You will be able to watch all of the Bucs Steelers preseason game, which is coming up on Saturday night. And this game, it's in Pittsburgh. It's not in Tampa. You can't go to Raymond James Stadium and watch it. So I would suggest, if you're going to be watching the Bucs game and you want to act like you're at the Bucs game, head on over to Walk-Ons. We love Walk-Ons. There are 3 in the Tampa Bay area. As soon as we get on the flight back to Tampa, as much as I am enjoying Pittsburgh, the one thing I'm going to be thinking of is, oh my God, I'm so much closer to Walk-Ons now. There's 3 in the Tampa Bay area, 1 over in Lakeland, another in Wesley Chapel, and a 3rd in Midtown Tampa, not far from where I live, not far from Raymond James Stadium either. It's about 5 to 10 minutes from good old Ray J. So if you want to watch the Bucs on Saturday night, go check out Walk-Ons, get some beers, get some wings, get some apps and great food all over at Walk-Ons. You don't want to go on Saturdays. Maybe you're busy that day. You want to go during the week. That's one of the best times to go because they have happy hour all the time. Tuesday is really the day to go because it's happy hour all day. And that includes $5 Tito's. If you want to go today on Wednesday, you could still catch them. They're going from 3 to 6 for happy hour and then 9 until close. But they have a wide arrangement of drinks. Their food is incredible, from the Boom Boom Shrimp to the spinach artichoke dip. The wings are fantastic. I'm still thinking about those wings that we had at the Pewter Report Platinum member meetup a little while ago with our pal Zion McCollum, who you spoke to earlier, and of course Mike Greenberg, who was on hand for that one as well. So eat like a winner and drink like a champ over at Walk-Ons. And since we were talking about our Pewter Platinum members, why don't we give a special shout out to all of our Pewter Platinum members? Thank you so much for your support to Scott Federico, Rainthal Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Connor, 4 Reels, Kevin Thomas, Leighton Carter, The Guy is Gifted, Brandon Riley, Alec Bickler, Nick Dubuque, Zach Jarvis, Mario Thomas, Eric McMillan, and Dominic Tarantino. We appreciate each and every one of you so, so much. We couldn't do this. We couldn't get to Pittsburgh without your support. So thank you so much for your support of PewterReport.com and Pewter Report TV specifically. We will have another Pewter Insider this Friday for Pewter Platinum and Premier members. We're going to get ready for Bucs versus Steelers. First look at the Bucs starters. That will be Friday at 1:30. We'll preview a little bit of Bucs Steelers. I'll talk more about what happened during what will be Thursday's joint training camp practice with the Bucs and Steelers. And of course, the main reason we're there is to answer any questions and comments from you, our beloved Pewter Platinum and Premier members. So thank you everyone for your support. Thanks to anyone that has either watched this show or super chatted, or if you're a subscriber of any level, we cannot thank you enough for your support of PewterReport.com. We just hit 20,000 subscribers not too long ago. We're almost halfway to 21,000 subscribers. So the growth has been tremendous. I'm so thankful. We try to put on the best show that we can with our YouTube channel, with with all of our articles and stuff on pewterreport.com, social media. A lot of people enjoyed the live look that we had for Bucs Titans last week. We're likely going to do that again tomorrow. Again, if the Steelers media team allows us to get a proper amount of photo and video, we're going to work on that tomorrow. So that'll be a good treat for everybody. And we'll put it all in one close shop for you to go and check out. But yeah, thank you everyone for your support.
Yeah. Do we want to get to some comments? Looks like the Pewter people have been talking here
yes,
a little bit.
We're going to get to a couple of comments, but we also have a super chat. Ooh. And of course, super chats get to skip the line. Thank you to Bucs Basement for this $2 super chat. Who says Braswell needs to improve, not a second-round pick. Adam, your thoughts on that one?
Okay, so Braswell, he's had a really good training camp. The first preseason game against the Titans offensive line, he did not show up and, show that physicality and kind of the pass rushing ability that he has the first few weeks of the summer. Going forward, I think Braswell still has a shot to be the number 3 outside linebacker. I mean, the position's there for the taking now with David Walker, unfortunately, out for the season. And, Steady Eddie kind of being that number 4, number 5 guy. Braswell has a chance to get a lot of reps. He improved late in the season, and you kind of see pass rushers take that next step in the second year. But now is the time, Matt, against backup offensive linemen. I mean, last year we saw Jose Ramirez have 3 sacks in the preseason,
yeah.
I think against the Jaguars. This is the time for Braswell to really show it. And going up against the Steelers, they don't have the best tackle situation.
No.
Maybe he gets a sack or 2.
Yeah, I don't think – so Todd Bowles, it was certainly coach speak when he's like, yeah, he actually did look good. I don't think Bowles has lost his faith in Chris Braswell just yet. The problem is that, the candle can only burn for so long. At some point, it's going to go out, or if it doesn't go out, or if it does go out, then you got to find out what's option B. Is it just Anthony Nelson? Is that about it? Or, do they look for Zadarius Smith? Do they look for Jadeveon Clowney? The clock is ticking when it comes to what to do with Chris Braswell. Now, if he has a great practice tomorrow, if he has a really good preseason game on Saturday night, well, then I think you're kind of back to let's just ride it out with Chris Braswell as outside linebacker 3. We'll see what Larry Foote can do as he continues to coach him. Larry Foote is going to call the defensive plays on Saturday night as he makes his return to Pittsburgh, where he spent a majority of his career. So we will definitely keep in tune with what Chris Braswell will be doing in that game. Let's keep it rolling with a couple of comments. Let's see. We'll go Hezo813, a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, says, got Ibuka and Bucky on my fantasy squad, expecting huge years for them both. Ibuka,
he's a fun one.
I think especially early on while Chris Godwin is out. I don't know what round you got him, but Ibuka, that could pay off huge early on. The problem for you, not necessarily for the Bucs, but for you specifically, Hezo, is when Chris Godwin comes back, how much will that take away the sharing of what Emeka Ibuka was getting?
Is there a sell high situation there? Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you do like a keeper league and stuff like that. There's a lot involved. Bucky, I mean, that's a home run right there. Again, especially on the flip side of it with what's going on with Rashad White at the moment. Tyler Lavelle, also a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, says, McMillan been quiet? I don't think quiet's the right word. He's a little bit more of a cerebral assassin in my opinion. He's not going to get the volume and the production that Mike Evans gets, or even what we've seen with Emeka Ibuka. But he makes a couple, when he does make a play,
it's a big play.
He gets you. He certainly makes the splash plays and has the big moments. For every 3-yard catch that Emeka Ibuka will get, or a screen pass to Emeka Ibuka, McMillan will make that 15-yard catch, that 20-yard catch. I think that was on perfect display in the preseason game when he made the first catch of the game on, I wouldn't call it a 50-50 jump ball, but certainly one where it was like, hey, he's kind of open, let me throw it, and he went up and made the play. But him going up and getting after it, using his body, kind of boxing out people, using his physicality, I think that's the next step in the maturation for Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, and how I would describe his camp is that he's made splash plays. Last year, you saw late in the year, he's making all those big touchdown grabs. Maybe that's kind of his role on this team because it's such a stacked wide receiver room 1 to 3 that, you have McMillan there is probably the best wide receiver for it. You know what? He is the best wide receiver for it in the NFL because that's just a spoil of riches. So for McMillan, you kind of want to see more consistency, especially after last year. He had such a great camp, but kind of factoring in what you mentioned with Ibuka kind of stealing the show, getting a lot of targets and building that trust with Baker. You've seen McMillan take a bit of a backseat, but still be solid.
No doubt about it. Let's get to Bucs running back beast, our beast, Rashad Wisdom fan, LMAO. Honestly, Rashad Wisdom
almost made a play today.
Yeah, he kind of had a pretty solid day. He was back at safety, made sure none of the deep balls got completed. Maybe he'll get on the practice squad, but not a bad day from Rashad Wisdom. I just wanted that point out.
Yeah, there was a pass where Kyle Trask was looking for Devin Culp. Looked like some miscommunication. He threw it directly at Rashad Wisdom, just overthrew him. So.
Let's go to Rolf Steinbauer says, what's up with Antoine? He's injured already. So Antoine Field Jr. has missed the last 2 practices. Todd Bowles said today it's a lower leg injury and he's sore. Todd Bowles has been all over the map with injuries. Tristan Wirfs was fine, and then he's on the PP list the next day. David Walker as well. I don't think he totally exactly knows. I'm not crazy concerned about it because with training camp, you always err on the side of caution. If he's feeling not the right way, you're not going to throw him out there and risk an injury there. At this point, I don't want to say I wouldn't think about it too much just yet. If he doesn't practice, by Labor Day, then I think you're kind of a little more concerned about what's going on there. Then again, we've talked about this depth at safety. You kind of feel okay about it. I'm not going to sound the alarm just yet for Antoine Winfield Jr. For all we know, he could be out there tomorrow, but he has missed the last 2 days, and that's why I wanted to ask Todd Bowles about it, because it's not like a veteran day off with some of these other guys.
Yeah, we do the same thing with all the players. So I'm not worried about Winfield either. And, I kind of thought it was a good chance to see some of the other safeties out there, like Rashad Wisdom, like J.J. Roberts. You want to kind of see the guys that, are teetering between making the 53 and the practice squad. Winfield's going to make it. He's a star, the captain. And, holding him out for a day, exercising caution, not a bad thing.
Yeah, no doubt about it, for sure. Cuse44, good to hear from you. Did the Bama back practice today? Jace McClellan. Yes, Jace McClellan was there, participated, still learning the offense and everything like that, so didn't get a ton of reps. It was a lot more of just run. Yeah, for about, I think it was a first down on the right sideline. So, he was out there a little bit, but yeah, still acclimating to the offense. He's going to be more of getting a lot of reps against Buffalo in preseason week 3. So we'll see Bucky Irving a little bit on Saturday night. Still no Rachaad White. But yeah, Josh Williams, that's going to be big for tomorrow and Saturday as well. Josh Williams finally getting into the mix a little bit. I think he's going to be one of the top guys people are most excited to hear about tomorrow.
And I wonder what strategy like the Bucs implement concerning Josh Williams, because last year you kind of saw it with Cam Johnson. Like, he made the 53-man roster, but he didn't play a lot during the preseason. Like, you kind of want to hide him to where if you put Josh Williams on the practice squad, you don't want another team being like, ooh, he's super talented, let's nab him. Like, you kind of want to, play him sparingly too.
Stick and move for sure. We're going to recap everything coming up tomorrow with Bucs versus Steelers in the joint training camp practice. Again, the time is TBD because practice is later in the afternoon. We get Todd Bowles at a different time, and we also have a flight to catch that evening as well. So it's TBD with the time, but we will have a Pewter Report podcast tomorrow to recap everything from Bucs and Steelers at the Steelers Stadium in Pittsburgh. Very much looking forward to it. Gonna be a great time and a lot of fun competition as well. So that's coming up tomorrow on Thursday, and then Friday we have a Pewter Insider coming up at 1:30 for Pewter and Platinum members specifically. So that's going to do it for us on today's show. Real quick, if you're not already doing so, please like and subscribe and follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Hit that like button and subscribe. Let everyone know about pewterreport.com and Pewter Report TV. We would really appreciate that. Leave a comment on this video as well, who you're excited to watch against the Steelers, someone you're high on, someone you're low on, however you feel about the Bucs being in Pittsburgh. We would love to see your thoughts and comments on that specific topic. All right, that's it for this afternoon, live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. For Adam Slavon, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.